Hello everyone. Today I brought Thomas Hobbes's Leviathan, but not all of the contents in Leviathan, but it's the chapter that I gave you is the excerpt from Leviathan. By the way, I guess that you may feel difficulty with understanding Hobbes's essay because of his writing. It's dry and it's not easy to understand at once. And first and foremost, that's because the difficulty comes from, I guess, its philosophical theory. So I think that that's the main reason why if you have any difficulty with understanding Hobbes, that's because it's philosophical writing. It's about philosophy. And he theorizes a certain concepts, and to do that, in this Leviathan, he mainly he establishes a philosophical proposition for his ultimate argument for the sovereign power. So I guess our final exam would be a little more difficult than midterm exam. That's why the essays that we've covered so far, it's not just about the literature, but sometimes it's about philosophical literary writing. So I hope you are prepared for the final exam in advance by reading the text thoroughly. For today, I prepared only one topic, the human nature, what Thomas Hobbes says about the human nature, basically for his argument, for his philosophical theory of why sovereign power is necessary. Okay, over there, that's the picture of Thomas Hobbes. So I sort out his biographical information, and I include for this PPT only this one in relation to Leviathan. For other things, I kind of disregard it, but not intentionally. So he had a long life. He has lived, if we think that this is the 17th century, he has a really long life. He was born in 1588 to 1679. As you see over there, he is the contemporary philosophical author with Francis Bacon. Both have known each other. So Leviathan is Hobbes's philosophical theory. It's not just about the philosophy, but it's also theory. And then both are mixed together in Leviathan. So in this Leviathan, Hobbes attempts to answer his questions about the nature of human nature and legitimacy of state power during English Civil War. English Civil War, it's from 1642 to 1651, and very roughly put, English Civil War is the war between Parliament and Royalists. Parliament is the selected people who represent other common ordinary people, and the Royalists are the people who support the monarchy, like the King James VIII or Queen Elizabeth I or the King James I, King Henry VIII, Queen Elizabeth I, and King James I. So all of these figures are kingship or queenship in monarchy. So for the people who support this monarchy are the royalists, and this parliament are representatives who represent the ideas of the ordinary people. So the English Civil War is the war between parliament and royalists. Hobbes, by undergoing this English Civil War during almost 10 years, he had questions about the human nature, and he tried to answer about his question, human nature, and based on that nature, why do we need the sovereign power? Do you see this image? This is the image of the original Leviathan. Leviathan is monstrous creature like sea serpent in the form of the sea serpent. See this image? So it's a monster referenced in Bible, Leviathan has a very strongest power and to conquer everything. That's why Thomas Hobbes employs that Bible image and he reshapes it. Hobbes revises Leviathan in a way that, like this way. This is the figure that Hobbes reimagined. This is the figure Hobbes calls Leviathan, means represents the sovereign power. And I'm gonna go into more detail this image at the end of today's class. So this is the basic premises of Hobbes's main ideas about human nature and sovereign power. What is the definition of the sovereign power? This is the basic summary of it, summary of the premises. I'm gonna read this passage first, and then I'm gonna unpack it with the text. So from now on, you should be with the text. While I'm reading this passage, if you did not look up the definition of sovereign or sovereignty, you can look at these two definitions. Okay, then what are the basic premises of Hobbes's Leviathan? Basic, because all humans are roughly equal, physically and mentally, they possess equal hopes of attaining goods, as well as equal fears of danger from others. In the state of that nature of equality, before the foundation of some sovereign, which is the supreme ruler, like monarchy, the foundation of some sovereign power to keep them all in awe, everyone is continually at war with everyone else. And life, in Hobbes's memorable phrase, is that life is solitary and poor, nasty, brutish, and short. If we are without common power, if we are without sovereign power, to escape this ghastly strife, humans' covenant is a type of legal contract or agreement with people, with human beings, each other, to establish a sovereign government over all of them. That sovereign power incorporates the wills and individuality of them all, so that people no longer have wills, rights, or liberties apart from sovereign's will. The sovereign's virtually absolute dominion over his subjects extends to the right to pronounce on all matters of religion and doctrine. So here, Hobbes starts his thinking from the human liberty, human will, human right. Hobbes acknowledge them altogether, human liberty, individual will, individual right. But what Hobbes ultimately argues is that sovereign power is over. Sovereign power is absolute dominion over all of them. So that's why sovereign power becomes the top of the power. Then why? Then why does sovereign power becomes the ultimate dominion over all other things? Then for that, let's unpack his philosophical premises here with the text. For today, I will only focus on two pages, page 1598 and 1599, this one and this one. Let's look at the very first paragraph. Nature, this is the paragraph on the top, on page 1598. It's chapter 13, when Hobbes describes the natural condition of mankind as concerning their felicity and misery. Why humans are misery? So nature has made man so equal in the faculties of body and mind, as that though there be found one man sometimes manifestly stronger in body or of quicker mind than another. Yet when all is reckoned together, the difference between man and man is not so considerable. So what this means is that human nature, so Hobbes proposes that human has the nature that we all are equal, physically and mentally. The second paragraph, Hobbes emphasis on the equality more in the matter of the mind rather than the physical strength. So again, there's an equality as the general human nature. Humans are all equal, mentally and physically. And in the second paragraph, Hobbes emphasizes on the equality among humans in their mind. So equality sounds all the time good, right? But Hobbes develops that idea of equality by raising a problem. That is, there's a third paragraph, little down in the middle. It's third paragraph. The sentence starts by, from this equality of ability arises equality of hope. So because we all are equal, we have equal hope. Why? Because we are equal. So if you imagine that there are two people, these two figures, we can imagine that these two figures are equal, and because they are equal, these two figures are equal, they have equal hope. Then why does this equal hope becomes problematic? That's because they have equal hope, equal hope in attaining good. That means if these two figures want this thing together, then these two figures equally hope this one, equally hope attain this object. Then these two figures can't help but fighting each other because to attain these goods. Why? There's a lack of goods. That's why competition is arising. Again, humans are all equal, and because of this, they have equal hope. They have the hope equally. And because of that equal hope, they also want to get this, or sometimes they desire the same thing together. And that's how the competition is arising between human beings because of this equality. So far, by the third paragraph, I am around here. There's an equality as the human nature, and because humans are equal, they have the equal hope. But there could be the problem sometimes in the matter of attaining the goods. And that equality in human causes equal hope in desiring wealth and reputation. And such equal hope often becomes desire, makes human beings as enemy to each other. As I've explained, these two figures become enemy when they want this one object. So, being enemies, humans can't help but be destroying or subduing one another. So, Hobbes' thought starts from the equality as the human nature, but he raises a problem. Why that equality becomes the problem? Why? That's because that equality as a human nature causes equal hope, and this equal hope often becomes the desire in wanting something. If that object or that goods or if anything that is limited, then competition arises between humans. So that's the problem. So let's go to page 1599, which is the next page. The second paragraph, the sentence starts by, so that in the nature of man. Here, Hobbes develops the nature of human, which is the equality. He develops that idea by theorizing three principal causes of quarrel. Hobbes in this page develops and theorizes the human nature by exploring more about the causes of quarrel. Why human beings are quarreling each other. According to Hobbes, I'm still talking about the second paragraph, so that in the nature of man we find the three principal causes of quarrel. First, competition. Secondly, diffidence. Humans cannot trust each other. So humans compete each other first. That's the first reason of quarrel. Second reason is that humans cannot trust each other. The third one is glory, the vanity. If human beings want the same thing, but that same thing is something about the vanity, something glory, like reputation or attaining goods more, then that is the case of glory, desiring a vain glory. So these three elements, competition, diffidence, glory, these are the causes of quarrel. Okay, so far what Hobbes tries to explain is that the first thing is that he proposes the human nature as the equality, but this equality becomes problematic when human beings are wanting the same thing. That's how competition is arising. And let's look at the next paragraph on page 1599, 1, 2, 3. It's fourth paragraph. The sentence starts by, here it is manifest that. So here, if we assume these qualities, competition, diffidence, and glory are the human nature, if we assume that, it is certain, it is manifest that during the time men live without the common power to keep them all in awe, they are in that condition which is called war. Because I will try to summarize what I have explained so far by this way. This is my first time to use this marker on this electronic board. So I've talked about Hobbes' proposition of equality as a human nature. Because of humans are equal, they have the equal hope, right? This equal hope, which sounds good, sometimes becomes the desire, often. This equal hope or desire can be problem when the people want limited goods. Like this example. So, when the people are with equal hope, when the people are wanting the limited goods with equal hope, they become to compete each other. So here the competition arises. And what Hobbes further argues that's why the equal human nature causes eventually human's basic condition as the war. So the equality, so we have a kind of general thought that the equal is a good thing in contemporary age, but Hobbes here directs that equality in a different way, in a sort of unexpected way to the war. And because of this equal human nature, it causes equal desire, and when that equal desire meets the limited goods between humans, that it brings about the competition, and this competition goes more to the war. That's how the equality causes the human basic condition as the war. The worst part of the human condition, the basic human condition as the war, is that it's the second paragraph from the bottom on page 1599. It's the very last sentence. So the worst of all, in this condition of war, there's a continual fear and danger of violent death, and the life of man becomes solitary and poor, nasty, brutish, and short. That's why human beings are needed the sovereign power. That's why sovereignty becomes necessary for human beings' life. So this is the fundamental point where Hobbes draws upon the idea of the sovereignty. Can we look at the very last sentence at the bottom, but neither of us accuse man's nature in it. The desires and other passions of man are in themselves no sin. What this means that Hobbes does not view that this human nature, which eventually causes the war, Hobbes does not view that human nature as the sin. He rather views that desire and passions are not the matter of the sin, but it's the matter of how to be governed by the sovereign power. So I'm gonna talk further about in what ways Hobbes develops his idea, his proposition here, human nature, to the sovereign power. I'm gonna go over that for next class. But before the end of the class, I would like to show this image again. So this is the figure of Leviathan. If you look at this image closely, or that Leviathan figure, there are all different types of peoples are in this Leviathan. This is this very bottom one. So there are 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 steps to the Leviathan, the supreme power. At the bottom, it's the scene of the war. People are competing each other. They are fighting each other at the very bottom. But with the sovereign power, they stop the war. And because of that, because people stop the war, this artillery has been also stopped. This is the crown, but this does not symbolically represent the king itself, but rather than the king or queen, but it's sovereign power. So from this point, the sovereign power engages in human beings' lives. So this is the last image, is the fortress. This is the fortress in which people can live in a stable way, in secure way. Otherwise, if we don't have the common power, this sovereign power, we are in the fear, and we are in the danger of the violent death, and the life of man becomes solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, if there is not sovereign power. That's why the sovereign power should be on the top of the human being's life. By the way, this is the 5 steps of the religious aspect. I will stop here for next class. I will continue to talk about the sovereign power in a more detailed way, and I will try to incorporate those issues within colonialism, as we've done for Francis Bacon. So thank you very much for listening to today's class.